So I'm here today to talk about a product that we're launching in the next 2 to 3 weeks that is going to change the way you track your investments. And I don't care whether you're someone who trades stocks yourselves or delegates everything to your financial advisor. If you were biting your nails last week when the Dow dropped 1,000 points in about 5 seconds, this is a product that's going to give you an insight and a visibility into your portfolio that just wasn't available before today. And before I show it to you, I want to share an interesting statistic, which is that less than 3% of users of major finance portals add a portfolio to the site. And it's actually fairly easy to see why this is the case. If you take a look at what's required of you to add your portfolio to these sites, there's a lot of upfront work. You have to enter in all your transaction history. And this data, by the way, is not evergreen. As soon as you make a trade, you have to go in and do it over again. And so we think there's a better way. And so we're going to be launching the world's first portfolio tracker that syncs directly with your brokerage. So how does this work? Well, first you can come to our site and you can pick one of 25 different financial institutions that we integrate with, from sort of the discount brokerages like E-Trade and Ameritrade to some of the more traditional wirehouse firms like Merrill Lynch and Morgan Stanley. And then to skip ahead just a little bit, here's what you get. You get a page that shows you all of your investments in one place from multiple different accounts. And you'll notice a couple things here. The first is that we are pushing live real-time market data directly to the browser. So as stock prices change in the market, the prices and the values of your holdings are changing here. And same thing with news. We pull news from over 500 sources. When news stories show up about companies in your portfolio, they animate in right here, and you never have to refresh this page. This is fully customizable, so I can click here, I can choose whichever sort of financial statistics and ratios I want to track about my portfolio. I can drag and drop these columns to reorder them. I can sort things, so right here I'm looking at the holdings that have the biggest one-day change today at the top. But if I'm a technical investor, I can also sort things by the 52-week range and see which things are nearing the upper end of their 52-week range or the lower end of their 52-week range. And there's also a lot of insight in this service hidden beneath the surface. So for example, I have a column here that tracks PE ratios. If I want to see sort of how a company compares to its industry peers along that metric, I can mouse over it and it'll show me sort of exactly where Genzyme fits in comparison to some of the other biotech companies out there. But what's really interesting is because you're importing your data into our service, we can do a lot of things that just aren't possible with other portfolio trackers. Namely, for example, we can show you up over here on the left your performance versus industry benchmarks. And if you're someone who is delegating the management of your investments to a financial advisor, or maybe you have a 401k and a bunch of mutual funds, you can benchmark that guy here and see if he's beating the market. And then we also tell you sort of how that performance breaks out. So how much of that performance is coming from gains on assets versus dividends? How much are you paying your brokerage in fees, which is something that sometimes you might not be entirely aware of. We can also, if you're a value investor, you're probably used to looking at things like PE ratios for stocks in your portfolio. We can show you a lot of that data, but for your portfolio as a whole. So suddenly you can look and see what's the PE ratio for my entire portfolio. And it's not here on the left, but we can show you things like beta. How risky is this portfolio? What's the historical volatility been? And so generally, this is really only scraping the surface. But once you can integrate directly with someone's transactions history, you can give them a lot of value and analysis and insight on their holdings. So that's kind of what we're launching in 2 to 3 weeks. But there's another technology that's going to be coming a couple weeks after that we call Hurricane. Hurricane is the world's first real-time earnings and fundamentals data engine. And what I mean by that is that when a company releases their earnings data, we have that data accessible to our users and our partners generally within seconds, if not milliseconds. And to compare that, Bloomberg terminals, for example, generally have that information 2 to 3 minutes. CNBC will get that information on air in maybe 20 to 25 minutes. Services like Capital IQ data vendors that power a lot of the major finance sites like Yahoo Finance will generally have that information available in 1 to 2 weeks. And so why is this interesting? Well, the implications for institutional investors are obvious. But for retail investors, we can provide a lot of value. So for example, if you owned Las Vegas Sands last week, here's an example of an earnings alert that we could have sent you if you were integrated with our portfolio. And the neat thing about this is this would arrive in your inbox within seconds of the earnings announcement coming out, probably a half an hour to an hour before the conference call has even occurred. And importantly, 10 to 15 minutes before the rapid response reporter over at MarketWatch has even started thinking about typing out a story about this. And we can show you sort of the historical trend of this release. We can show you how the release compared to analyst expectations. Did they beat the number? Did they come in under? This is obviously sort of very valuable information for an investor. So you've seen a bunch of interesting things today. There are two things that I want to ask of you. The first is, if you are interested in the portfolio tool that I showed you earlier, come and try it out. So we're not launching it for another 2 or 3 weeks, but we have a special URL for people in the audience today to come and try this out. We're still trying to work out the kinks and the bugs, and we would love your help in doing that. Try it out and email us and let us know what you find. That URL is wikinvest.com/portfolio. Wikinvest.com/portfolio. Go and try it out and let us know. Email us feedback@wikinvest.com. Let us know what you think. The second thing is that Wikinvest has a very robust licensing platform. So we power a lot of financial tools and information for other sites out there. So you'll see here that we power all of the stock data for NPR.org. All of this information is coming from us. These are our stock charts. We power all of the stock charts on Forbes.com, as well as a lot of other properties. But if you are interested in the products you've seen today or some of the products and integrations you see on this NPR tear sheet or in other areas, let us know. And if you'd like to offer them to your users, please get in touch with us, because we have a very active licensing business and can offer that to you. So that's it, and thank you very much.